You see, these past 2 weeks, I'll say it again, these past 2 weeks are exactly what you want to see out of a bad team that is most likely going to tank for the rest of the year. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I'm your host, Micah McCamey, and first off, I need to apologize. My voice is a little sore today. Not sore, hoarse, because I am still recovering from losing my voice at the Titans game this Sunday because I was yelling so loud. Not for the right reasons, but we'll get to that at some point. But this team showed a lot of fight on Sunday. That's why I put it in the title whenever I said Titans Week 11 review. Fight, because they just fought, and that's something that you want to see out of a team with a first-year head coach. I'm telling you, man. I'll get to Callahan later, but I'm starting to get bought in. Anyway, before we get into that, though, we got to start out today's episode with three major stats that impacted this game. Number one, 33 rushing yards. Completely unacceptable. You cannot have only 33 rushing yards and consistently win football games, which it felt like it was opposite day because it was just like, well, 33 rushing yards, that's not good, but passing yards wise, again, we'll get to that later, but rushing game was almost non-existent. I think that Pollard was dealing with a lingering injury throughout the game, and Spears is not a running back one, as much as I hate to admit that. So taking both of those things into consideration, that's why that is the stat line, because they just both didn't play that great, even whenever Tony Pollard was in the game. But anyway, secondly, 11 total first downs. Again, this team shows a lot of great flashes, but then they just show some really low lights. Like, some things are just really bad. But 11 first downs, you got to get more first downs than that, especially whenever you're trying to score more than, random example, 23 points. But again, you probably understand if you have been watching. So again, that is something that needs to be fixed. Okay, 11 first downs is ridiculous, and we got to get more than that. For context, I think the Vikings had about 33. That's exactly 3 times more than we did. But last thing that I'll talk about is the penalties. We had 13 penalties on the day. Okay, so officiating aside, that's still undisciplined football. Now, I will get to the officiating, and even though it is somewhat undisciplined, I'm going to actually transition into the officiating right here. My gosh, the refs. Okay, I don't complain about them on this show. I may sometimes complain about them in the background and not really mention them, on here because I think it's dumb whenever I'm trying to do a serious analysis, a serious analysis of the football games that the Titans do play. I usually try and keep them out of this because I think that blaming the refs for every single loss that you take is just fan talk. That's the truth. But my gosh, the refs were absolutely terrible in this game. Okay, I can name you 3 penalties, I would say. 3 penalties that impacted this game way more than they should have. Okay, starting out early. DPI on Justin Jefferson. This one gets forgotten because of the other 2 that were more horrendous than even this one. This one isn't looked back upon as much because here's the thing. Let me set the scene for you. 3rd down, all right, the Titans have actually been doing pretty decent on defense up to this point in the game, which leads to, my apologies, which leads to a 3rd down where Sam Darnold drops back to pass, throws up a jump ball, incomplete. Great defense by Darrell Baker, but a yellow thing comes in and throws it and goes straight onto the field. And it's considered pass interference. Now, I probably won't have a clip for any of these penalties, but most of them were one-on-one jump balls, this one specifically was a one-on-one jump ball. Okay, both offense and defense were running into each other. This was a regular 1v1 ball. But the reason that it got called for Justin Jefferson is because, well, he's Justin Jefferson. That doesn't get called for most other receivers in the NFL, unless you're any of the Bengals receivers, apparently. But the reason that I can say this is because I have proof. Whenever you go later on into the game, you'll see that NWI had the same exact thing. By the way, shout out to NWI. We'll get to him in a second. But again, you see that NWI had a very similar situation, and he was going up for a jump ball. It was incomplete, and it was the exact same thing as the Justin Jefferson ball, and it didn't get called for DPI. For context, that third down stop cost us a touchdown. So what's that about? It's just ridiculous, honestly. But then you go on, and that's not even the least offensive one. I'll go from least to most offensive because, like, yeah, sure, I guess that you could pull it out of your tail that, like, yeah, that could be DPI. But then you go up to the illegal formation. Will Levis throws an absolute dart for a touchdown. Beauty to Calvin Ridley. He's wide open down the field, walks into the end zone for a touchdown. And you want to know what happens? Yellow thing gets onto the field. Wonder what the flag is. Illegal formation on the offense. I was thinking offsides on the defense because there was a clear offsides penalty on that play. Don't believe me? Look it up. Trust me. Here was the thing. It wasn't even an illegal formation. Like, I have no clue what an illegal formation is, but I've heard from people that actually do know what an illegal formation is. It wasn't an illegal formation. Will Levis got robbed of a touchdown and got robbed of his best stat line of the entire year because, I don't know, Roger Goodell paid the refs to make sure that an 8-2 team stayed 8-2. Like, I don't know what it was. Yesterday was the first time that I genuinely questioned, does the NFL have some rigging going on? Like, I've never questioned that before watching a Titans game. Like, I may say, oh yeah, the refs had a couple of bad calls here and there, but like, I genuinely had no clue what to think in this game. Like, I genuinely believed for a second, is the NFL rigged? I mean, obviously it's not, because if you look at the legalities of it, then there's no chance that it can be rigged without the NFL being completely shut down after a few years of people realizing that it's rigged. Unlike the WWE, which is more of a entertainment style, and it's obvious that it's entertainment. Like, football is advertised as a real thing that happens, like, in real time and isn't acted out or scripted. Like, if it did come out and it was revealed that the NFL was scripted, then the NFL would be in big trouble, to say the least. So I don't think it's rigged, but like, I genuinely questioned it yesterday. And the last one, you've seen it all over Twitter or Instagram or whatever social media app you use. Trust me, you have. You just don't know it. The unnecessary roughness call on 4th and goal, whenever Mike Brown does everything that he can to make sure that that pass hits the ground. And here comes the flags, 2 of them this time. Unnecessary roughness on the defense. Why? Just why? Okay? We take a look. And then, instead of the refs owning up to it and being like, hey, you know, maybe we didn't make the best call there, you know, instead of, like, letting Callahan get out all of his steam on them because, like, you know, maybe they didn't make the best call, which I feel like is what refs do whenever they were technically wrong on some type of call, they call an unsportsmanlike conduct on Callahan because they are wusses. But the truth is that should not have been unnecessary roughness. And even though we probably wouldn't have gone on to have a 99-yard touchdown drive like we did later on in the game, I'll get to that later, but like, even though we didn't actually get to go on to do that, and we probably wouldn't have, it would have cost the Minnesota Vikings points. And we were an illegal formation and a unnecessary roughness call away from this being a genuinely competitive football game. And a DPI even. Like, actually, if all of these things get called, we could have been looking at a potential, like, Titans big, not blowout, but, like, we could have been looking at a decent lead for the Titans in this game, which is just so ridiculous. And it honestly makes me upset. I hope we never have that officiating crew again. And for the people that say, oh, it's a 2-8 football team against 8-2 football team, who cares? Nobody cares about the Titans. Nobody cares about the Vikings because they know they're probably going to lose in the divisional this year, which, yes, you are correct. Not that many people cared about this matchup. Okay, I'm pretty sure that if you were to take a look at the ratings for each game this weekend, that would probably be one of, if not the lowest rated games of this weekend. But that does not mean that this should not be taken. This does not mean that this should not be looked at. Like, think about this. Imagine Super Bowl. this same officiating crew that we had on Sunday had just gotten hired for this game. It's 4th down and 10. Jared Goff drops back to pass. It's Lions versus Chiefs, and the Lions need a field goal to win. They are down by 2 points with about a minute left to go in the game. Jared Goff throws an absolute beauty of a deep ball. Would have been perfect, but a Chiefs player tackles the receiver that he was going for mid-play, and there's no flag. Is that what you want in your Super Bowl, for it to get completely ruined by a couple of bad refs? Like, if we don't get rid of the bad apples right now, then the bad apples will infest in the great apples, the ones that we love the most. Trust me, it's a very bad idea to just completely ignore this, because it's a bad football team that this isn't benefiting. It's ridiculous, and it makes me upset. Y'all really, please, just, for goodness sake, just at least recognize that this was a badly officiated game, and at least call for, like, something, I don't know, not like the beheading of the refs or anything like that, but, like, just be like, hey, maybe don't let them into the playoffs or something like that. Like, I think it's ridiculous overall. But anyway, that really ran a lot longer than I was expecting it to. So let's go into the positives and negatives. We'll do this fast and then we'll wrap up. Okay? Positives. Levis. Great game by him. I don't know what else to say, because he hit that 98-yard touchdown to NWI, and he also should have hit like a 50-yard touchdown to Calvin Ridley if it hadn't gotten called back by these horrible refs. But also, overall, Levis played a great game against one of the better defensive units and one of the better schematic defensive units in the entire NFL. I thought he was going to throw like 4 picks going into the day. After today, it makes me more confident that I may need to run a campaign for Will Levis 2025. Next one, Brian Callahan. He's starting to figure it out, guys. He's starting to learn how to be a good NFL head coach, and it's making me really excited, because because he looks like he could be the guy, and I'm getting more bought in every single week as the time goes on. There was a little rough sprout in there whenever we had to play some really good football teams where his play calling did not look so hot, but it's starting to look like he's starting to get it. And he hasn't made any horrendous time management decisions like he had in that little week stretch where it didn't feel like he knew what he was doing. So like he was doing really well for himself. Get the right tackle spot finished, let his routes develop. We could be looking at something great here. But anyway, overall, Callahan called a good game. Nothing really too insanely questionable. I had some dude, whenever I said that I loved Callie, tell me about the penalties. Well, first off, come on now. You're really going to criticize the head coach over penalties in this game out of all games? Like, if you wanted to criticize him about that in a game like against the Colts or the Jags, yeah, I understand. But against this Minnesota Vikings team, not as in like against them, but like with these refs against the Minnesota Vikings, like, come on, man. That's being too hard on a coach just because you want to be mad about something and you want something fresh already, even though Callahan is going to be something fresh over the next few years. I promise you that. Okay, next thing, J.C. Latham. We have a franchise left tackle. Okay, I can say that with confidence right now. Like, he is going to be a staple on this Titans O-line for years to come, or as long as we keep him. Okay, he's going to be absolutely amazing. He and whatever right tackle we draft in the next draft, yeah, I said it, because Will Levis isn't going anywhere, at least not after this week. Now, he may go on to have a disaster class against the Texans, and I just am like, sorry. But, like, again, he and whoever we draft at right tackle are going to be a great pair for years to come. I can feel it, just because Bill Callahan is an absolute wizard with that O-line. The only person that he couldn't fix was NPF, which, by the way, that video that I put out, Aged Like Milk, please don't ever watch it again. It's one of my most viewed videos, unfortunately, specifically for the podcast. But anyway, Darrell Baker. Okay, so you'll look at Justin Jefferson's stat line and you'll think 4 receptions for 81 yards. What is this dude talking about? He didn't have a great game, which I would agree with if we were talking about some type of Joe Schmo receiver like, I don't know, Brian Thomas Jr. or Tank Dell. but like we're talking about Justin Jefferson, potentially the best receiver in the entire NFL. He was able to hold Justin Jefferson to that. There have been some really good DBs that have done worse against Justin Jefferson. So Darrell Baker fought really hard, and I'm really proud of him. I don't mean to sound like a dad, but still, NWI is my next positive. Man, I know that my dad will be really happy about this, seeing NWI in the positive section. He watches the episodes. So, 98-yard touchdown. Every time that he catches it, it's either a first down or a touchdown. So, like, I don't know, play NWI more, I guess. I mean, I was really not interested in it, but like maybe with the new system and something new, like maybe if we gave him more reps, he would start playing a little bit better. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. But anyway, we got to go into the negatives. D-line to the quarterback. We had the potential to have like 3 or 4 sacks in this game to match the Minnesota Vikings 5 sacks. But we didn't, to say the least. We just were missing sacks left and right. Like, we could not. We made Sam Darnold look like Lamar Jackson or prime Carson Wentz. I know that's a weird example, but trust me, prime Carson Wentz was insane with escaping the pocket. Like, it was just kind of ridiculous because, like, Sam Darnold isn't even, like, an insanely mobile quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He's decently mobile, but, like, he is not some type of dude where you're just like, yeah, you know, he's up there with, like, the Lamar Jacksons. Like, you would say that he was more like a prime Ryan Tannehill. Mobile, but not like anything where you could treat him as a dual threat quarterback, you know? So, again, D-line, got to do better. Okay, right tackle. I don't have that much to say about this. Continues to be a disaster. Prince, I can't even remember his first name, was absolutely horrible. Same thing with NPF. Leroy Watson's also bad. He's not as bad as those other two, but he's still bad. Same thing goes with the other right tackle, Njoku, but overall just really, really bad. Denard Wilson, this is the first time that I think I've seen Callahan be in the positives and Denard Wilson be in the negatives. Yeah, no, Denard Wilson did not call that great of a game yesterday. Now, maybe if he gets those like 3 or 4 sacks from the Titans D-line, then maybe we're talking about something completely different here. But since D-line didn't get that much pressure, you know, we didn't do that much else to like force turnovers. The only turnover that we got was one of the luckiest things that I've seen whenever Aaron Jones dropped the pitch and then kicked it straight into a Titans player's chest. Like, that was ridiculous. But anyway, Jack Gibbons, not his playing. Okay, I just want to clarify that. It's his injury. That was absolutely ugly. Not going to be playing for the rest of the season. And I just wanted to say that we need to pray for that man because that was a terrifying injury. But, okay, negatives, Levis. I forgot to mention this earlier. I have Levis overall in the positives, but I have Levis's time in the pocket in the negatives. Because, like, everything else about Levis is starting to look good. He's starting to look more accurate. He has great arm strength. We already knew that. He is starting to know, like, where to go with the football, and he's not making the stupid decisions. But he still just sits in the pocket for too long. Like, I thought if there was anything that he was going to learn while sitting behind Mason Rudolph is, hey, you got to get the ball out faster. But he did not, to say the least. Like, he just, I don't know how else to say it. He wasn't getting the ball out fast enough. He could have gotten the ball out pretty fast, but just he couldn't do it. I don't know how else to put it. So Levis sack tendencies were not good, and they were the only thing holding Levis back from me calling this game a masterclass. And also the fact that the refs screwed him over with his big touchdown. But anywho, Jerome Baker is my last negative. I mean, this isn't like about him just playing absolutely terrible or anything, but it's failed expectations. We traded Ernest Jones for him and a pick. I was expecting him to at least look decent, but apparently he's not even better than Jack Gibbons. So that was something that was a little disappointing to say the least. But anyway, that's today's episode. I know that I didn't do the QB mock, but that's because we're rolling with Levis, baby. Next week, I should have like an edge mock potentially, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. So I'll come back to y'all on that. But anyway, also this video isn't going to be as intensely edited as you've probably been able to tell because it's late at night. I want to go to bed. I've been doing homework all day, so I'll try and get the next episode a little bit more edited, but this one it's literally just going to be the outro. Well, that's it. It may not even be the outro, but anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all. Tighten up.